All righty. Well, I think we're going to get started. So hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is called Sketching Success, a peek at InCommon's IAM Sketch for architecture planning. This is our mostly monthly webinar focused on all things identity and access management, brought to you by InCommon and Internet2. My name is Jean Horszewski. I'm the InCommon Academy Director, and I will be your host today. So we're going to go through a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. Couple things to note. Welcome. As usual, if you've joined us in the past, we will be taking questions throughout today's presentation. So please do use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions. We'll be taking them at the end, but also feel free to post your messages in the chat so that everybody can see them. Just be sure that you check everyone instead of just host so that we can all see it. Just know that this webinar will be recorded and we'll be sharing slides with everyone who has registered. So be on the lookout after this webinar today. So that brings us to today's topic, which raises a key question, I think, for everybody if you're tuning in today. And I guess I have a question for you all. Do you have a clear way to see how your IAM systems connect? Are there gaps? How are you evolving your architecture? So whether you're starting from scratch or untangling years of legacy systems, maybe your IAM architecture feels a little bit overwhelming. Well, today's webinar, you're going to be hearing from Rami Bolton, Interim AVP of Trust and Identity to Internet2, and Grady Bailey, Senior IAM Architect, at Internet2, and they will be giving you a deeper peek at InCommon's new tool called IAM Sketch, which is a new visual planning tool and community resource. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Rami.
Great, thanks, Jean. I'm so happy to be here. Like as Jean said, Grady and I are going to be doing a discussion today about the IAM Sketch tool. And before that, I'm going to give you just a little bit of background into what Sketch is and why it is. Next slide, please. So many of you are probably familiar with essentially a self-study that InCommon did. It started in 2023 and we released all of the findings in 2024. Dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of community feedback. We talked to people, focus groups, interviews. And at the end of that, we developed a 5-year strategic roadmap that is known as Futures2. I've linked this here, so if, when the slides are available to you at the end, please feel free to take a look at that. But one of the key objectives that came out of that report is a requirement that Internet2 and the community provides the community with tools and recommendations to select, implement, and maintain IAM infrastructure. And one of the things that came immediately to mind was the existing repository of IAM blueprint diagramming tools that we already had. Many of those are several years old, and we had after a long conversation, thought a reboot of these would be a really interesting way to stick our toe into how better can we offer tools to support the community. Sketch is the result of that, and I am so excited to show it to you today with Grady. Grady did a preview of it at TechX last year in 2024, and another preview at ComEx in 2025. And now we're ready to really pull the covers off and let Grady walk us through. So Grady, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Rami. Give me just 1 second. All right. So welcome to Sketch. So as Rami said, IAM Sketch it was born out of the Futures2 report, the Futures2 effort. And the one thing I want everyone to keep in mind as we go through today, it is truly a community effort, a community tool. This is for all of you. This is not for us. This is for all of you. And I like to think of it and this is selfish of me, I like to think of it, this is for me, because what we've created is the tool that I wanted in my previous role before I joined Internet2 last year. In fact, some of the work that I had done previously went into the research for developing IAM Sketch. And I discovered that when I joined Internet 2 and started on the Sketch project and saw, oh, those are my diagrams in that folder of things we want to help the community produce with this tool. That's interesting. So this is very personal for me. I'm really happy with it. So let's get right into it. At its core, there are three main components of the IAM Sketch. Uh, the well, I would call it it's more the ethos of IAM Sketch. It's learn, sketch, and share. We want to start with learn. First thing for IAM Sketch, it's all about learning. At its core, it is a content library of a bunch of different resources that have been created and curated specifically for you, the InCommon community. What you can see, and we're going to get into a proper demo. I'm just don't worry about having to zoom in and see the details. We're gonna fly through a demo here in just a little bit. But what you can see on the right, this is the resource library, the content library. It's going to be filled with community diagrams that have been submitted to us for the library. It's going to contain some helpful guides that may be useful if you're just starting to use a particular software component, or if you're just getting started in identity and access management. Those are the sorts of things that we want to put in the IAM Sketch library and make available to the community, as well as technical documentation. We know that sometimes technical documentation can get buried in wiki pages or somewhere else. We're hoping to be able to surface that in an easier way in this content library. So that's the learning part of IAM Sketch. We want IAM Sketch to be a destination for learning. When you have, again, you've been tasked with learning more about enterprise identity registries or provisioning engines, this should be one of the first places that you go and dive into what are the details of those things. What is even available? That's the first, of the core ethos of IAM Sketch, that learn, sketch, share. This is the learn portion. Then we'll move on to the sketch portion. This is the good stuff. This is the actual tool side. So if you think about a modern public library, they have all the resources and the books and things that you can check out. But a lot of libraries now, they have maker spaces. They have tools that you can check out. I'm really happy to be kind of in the center of three really great public libraries. We live in kind of the upper corner of Austin, Texas, and we're really close to a branch of the Austin Library. Also, the Cedar Park Library is nearby, as well as the Round Rock Library. They all have really great maker spaces where you can go and you can check out tools. And that's what I like to think of the sketch tool side. This is one of those tools that you might find in a library like IAM Sketch. So the IAM Sketch drawing tool, this is designed to help take you from a basic model of an IAM architecture to something that you can actually implement, to something that you can share with your peers, share with your colleagues, share with your leadership and stakeholders, and show this is what our IAM architecture looks like right now, or this is what I want our IAM architecture to look like in the future. So if you've done diagramming, if you've worked with tools like this before, you might recognize the interface there. The IAM Sketch tool is it's based on draw.io. We didn't want to try and totally reinvent the wheel. There are multiple tools out there that already provide a really great diagramming and drawing interface and functionality. We weren't going to try and reinvent something from the ground up when things already exist that we could just tailor for this particular use case. And so that's what we've done with draw.io. We've added some customizations to make it specific for this use case. It will help you create pretty simple but very effective diagrams. The whole goal here is to have a visual language of communication. You can talk until you're blue in the face about what your IAM system does, And if that's all you have, if you just got words and you're telling someone in your organization, you're telling your stakeholders, oh, this is what we have, this is what we do, this at a certain point, people do start to tune out. This helps to augment that by adding that visual component, something that is visual as well as being interactive, and you can actually see and poke at the components of your IAM system. And seeing and poking at it, that's the context. The context comes included. As you'll see in the demo here in just a little bit, the IAM Sketch tool allows you to put all the details of what a particular component is doing in your IAM system. So you can actually show someone, oh, yes, we've deployed the shibboleth identity provider in our infrastructure, and it is handling these particular functions for us. Or, we've deployed this other tool as part of our enterprise registry, and it is doing these particular functions. Those things are all contained in the diagram, as you'll see in just a little bit, and you can poke through the diagram and see them right there. So again, the context for all of these things, the what does this do in my environment comes included with the diagram that you create. Finally, the last step on the Learn, Sketch, Share is sharing. We want this to be if learning is how you get started, the sketch is really the meat of the meal here. We want this to be what you take away. We want sharing to be core to your usage of IAM Sketch. It's the giving back. It's the contributing back to the community. So we want people to contribute back to the community by uploading their diagrams. We have a form as part of the IAM Sketch library where you can upload your diagram and it will get put back into the library for other people to learn from. So it starts that cycle back over again of learning, sketching, and sharing. Now, all of the submissions are reviewed before they get published. So we're going to make sure that what gets published into the library is actually useful. We have a process in place to review these submissions and perhaps reach out and ask additional questions if we need to clarify something before we publish it. So that is part of the process of sharing back. When you share, your colleagues and your peers are going to learn from you. So we hope that you put as much context as you can into the diagram, as much detail. We have a box to add a description. You can add some, a textual description of everything that you included, and that will be posted alongside your diagram in the resource library. And like I said, this starts that cycle of learn, sketch, share all over again for someone else. And that's, again, really, really key is keeping that cycle going, keeping people engaged and strengthening the community as we go. Now I want to walk through, remember I said this was very personal for me, and I've given a lot of thought about how I would use a tool like this and my process. So I want to talk through kind of my process of building something real with a tool like IAM Sketch, and what I hope that people get out of this tool and how they use it in the future. That's another part of this. The tool is for you. You don't have to use it the way that I say I think you should use it. You are welcome to do what you want with this tool, but I would encourage you to take away from this kind of framework for, as I said, architecting something real with IAM Sketch. So what I would suggest is before you really dive in, you research and review what exists already. You go through the IAM Sketch library, you look across the landscape and see what exists to solve the particular problem. If you need to replace your aging bespoke custom enterprise identity registry or provisioning engine that has been churning along for 20 years and it's really great, but it's time to move on. See what's out there first. Then start with a model of what you want to make. That is, we provide the IAM conceptual model. that is an evolution. And I think I mentioned this in the speaker spotlight ahead of that was done in advance of this presentation. I mentioned how the IAM conceptual model is at the core of what we're doing with Sketch, and it's an evolution of some of those diagrams and things that Rami was talking about earlier. The things that InCommon has developed uh, that started out as the tier research or tier reference architecture and a lot of the things associated with that. This has been an evolution of that, and is kind of the next form of that is the IAM conceptual model. So you take that model and then the model is the basis of the sketch. So when you start a new sketch in the tool, you start with a blank version of the IAM conceptual model, and you create your own sketch with, a few basics of just what components go where. What components am I using in these different capabilities? And you add a couple of details in there, what functions are being fulfilled by them, and then you use your sketch to get buy-in from your peers and your stakeholders. This visual aid, you share that around and you let people see what you're doing. And then once you do that, you can go back to your sketch and add an extra layer of detail, something that that may have been too much for someone who's not an IAM expert or not particularly technical. That's the trouble with a lot of different diagrams is they tend to have a lot of layers of detail. I would recommend staying pretty basic with your initial sketches and just keep the components in their capabilities and check off what functions you're fulfilling with them, and keep the details for something that you're going to keep internal. But that can help you create a blueprint that you can actually take and implement. I talked about capabilities, components, and functions. We have kind of this relationship of these three things. It's not strictly hierarchical. We have the core capabilities of that are broken out on the conceptual model. Those are broken down into functions that are part of each capability, and the different components that go into those capabilities fulfill different functions. So again, it's not strictly a hierarchical structure. So we've developed this graphic that kind of shows how they all these definitions exist and these things exist in their own spaces, but they are all connected. So again, going back to using IAM Sketch, you need to assess the capabilities that exist in the conceptual model and think about your own environment, how you're leveraging those capabilities today, what components do you have in there today. Then add your components into the sketch. Once you do that, you go in and you will specify the functions that each component fulfills. We have a really nifty little way of doing that. And that is the third bullet and the last one that I have on there. I was ready for a fourth bullet and fully thought that I had a fourth thing there. The and there is, and it's time to get into a demo. So let me dive straight in and show you what we have created. I've got to do a little bit of a dance with the share here. And 1 second. All right. I believe, hopefully, everyone can see my share and see IAM Sketch. So this is IAM Sketch. This is the landing page. This is the library as you land on it. When you first come to IAM Sketch, this is what you're going to see. We have very prominent the buttons to create a new sketch, which we will dive into here in just a second. But I want to, point out again in the learn, sketch, and share. That's the through line throughout this whole thing. We have it down here. We have your IAM resources at the center here. This is your learning. You've got your sharing over here, your sketching here. So as you scroll through this, we have just different sections where we will highlight some of these. We'll highlight some of the resources that we've made available, some of the different categories. We've got things like helpful guides, and I want to point out as we're going through this everything right now is in a pre-alpha state. So things are subject to change. This again, this is in, I will call it pre-alpha because that is an accurate description of what we have here. We are planning on doing some alpha and beta tests, some round of testing, gathering of feedback. More to come on that in just a little bit, but just note everything is in a pre-alpha state. So as you can see, we've got spots to highlight some of the guides. We've got spots to highlight things specifically related to IAM capabilities. We've got a place to highlight community IAM sketches. And we're keeping it pretty simple here, but let me show you as we go into the resource library here. This is what I showed earlier in that little screenshot in my slide. This resource library, we're going to categorize all of the different resources, and you can very easily, hone in on what exactly you want. You can search for particular things. Again, we're trying to highlight anything that might be useful for you, the community, and we will happily take suggestions for anything that might really we think should belong in the IAM Sketch library. Right now, again, in a pre-alpha state, we just kind of populated this with some basic things. Some of these are links out to other resources. That's not necessarily content that we've duplicated inside of IAM Sketch. We're not going to duplicate the entire grouper deployment guide inside of the IAM Sketch library. But we are going to link off to it so that it's easy to find in the context of Sketch and easy to send people off to. You might notice here, we've got some, as listed under our technical content, these are previous IAM onlines that we're, again, highlighting as these are useful for people who are looking to learn something, that learning part of using IAM Sketch. So this is just going to be filled with a whole host of different things. The big highlight is going to be the community diagrams. Again, right now, this is pre-alpha, just kind of fake populated content. If you were at TechX or at ComX, you might notice these diagrams look a little bit familiar. These were mock-ups as we were building out IAM Sketch, what we want things to look like, and that's what we created here. But eventually, this is going to be populated with things that you have submitted, and that's what's gonna live in the community diagram section. All right, let's get into actual new diagrams. So let's go. Oh, the share bar got in my way of moving over to a new diagram. So here we go. We have opened up the sketch tool here, and when it opens initially, it's just going to be blank. But if you create something new, you'll see we have a template here for the IAM conceptual model. So when you create a new template with IAM conceptual model, you will see, oh, and unfortunately my share screen is cutting off the bottom here, but let me expand it here so you can see down here. This template it has multiple pages on it. It has the conceptual model itself, as well as these detail pages. We'll get down to those in just a second. Again, we wanted to stick pretty close to what Draw.io already does well, so we didn't do too much to it. We added a couple of nice little interactive things. So we've got a little interactive tooltip here for each of these, just to remind you what these different core capabilities are. And then each of these will go into those detail view pages. So let's go ahead and let's create a sketch. So let's say systems of record. What do we have for systems of record here? I would say we've probably got something like a HR database. And let's say we're also using, we'll have this, we'll label this as our banner SIS. All right. So these systems of record are just what populate the data throughout your IAM system. Again, representing them here with either the logo of a particular service or just some sort of generic shape. For our enterprise registry, we're going to say we're using co-manage primarily. So we'll put co-manage in there. Over in our SSO and federation, our mock institution, we've been using Shibboleth for a long time, but we're also making use of Duo for multi-factor authentication. And of course, we're leveraging the InCommon Federation. So let's put those all in there. For our grouping and access policy, we are using Grouper for that. So we'll just drop Grouper into there. And then for our provisioning engine, let's say we've got Midpoint as as doing a lot of our provisioning. We'll put Midpoint doing some of it, as well as we've got some provisioning happening with co-manage. Oh, and you know what? I forgot. You know what? Grouper is doing our groups provisioning. So let's go ahead and put all three of those in there. And then let's represent our identity consumers with something like this for our, let's call this our research labs. And then let's use this for our campus LMS. Let's put that down there. Let's see what else. Let's say we'll use this as campus housing. If I could spell, we'll put campus housing in there. Oh, of course, we don't want to forget the all-important networking. And let's see, we'll say, let's use this just to represent something like federated services. Oh, but you know what? We did forget a very all-important. Let's put in cloud services too. So again, these carry no real weight other than they're serving as a visual aid. So you can drag these things in, label them however you like. This is just for you. How do you want to best represent your systems of record and your identity consumers to your stakeholders, to your campus community, your peers? These two sections are just for you, however you want to represent them. The core capabilities, have the detail pages that I mentioned earlier. So let's get in. I think the SSO and Federation one, that's going to be a good one to dive into. So when you dive into one of these detail pages, you'll be presented with one of the software component boxes. And these are all of the functions that are associated with this particular core capability of the IAM conceptual model. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the Shibboleth logo in here. And what we have Shibboleth doing at our fake institution, it's doing our SAML authentication. We've also got it doing OIDC. It's our single sign-on. It's also our connection into the InCommon Federation. It's our multilateral federation connection, but we've also got it set up with some single bilateral connections. So we'll mark that as well. And we have introduced a really robust attribute release consent process as part of Shibboleth. Not everyone has done that, but we're really proud at our institution that we've built that in there. And now if we go back over to the main diagram again, you'll see we've still got the InCommon Federation and Duo in the detail. So what we need to do is we need to add another box of the SSO and Federation. So we'll just add it here underneath. And then we will, in this one, we'll add Duo. Now, Duo for us is it's really just handling our multi-factor authentication. That's really all it's doing. It gives us a way to do some advanced authentication, but that's really it. That's all we're using it for. And let's go ahead just to, again, show our leadership, show our stakeholders the value of different things that we have. Let's go ahead and put the InCommon Federation in here and make a point of saying this is our multilateral federation. This is like the InCommon Federation is important to us, so we're going to represent it on here. And that's it. This is just, again, a visual aid to show you and keep tabs on what are the things that each component is doing inside of my IAM system. We have these detailed views for each of the core capabilities, and they have a different set of functions for each because each core capability has a different set of functions. I think this is the first time since we created the tier reference architecture, I think close to 10 years ago. I think this is the first time that we've actually listed out this set of functions. Now, some of you may disagree with some of these lists of functions. You may think, oh, there's something missing. Great, tell us. If you think that there's a particular function that's missing off of one of these or should be reworded or something along those lines, let us know. But what we're not going to try and do, we're not going to try and shove explainers for each of these functions into the diagramming tool. We're going to save something like that for the content library. So that's where again, back in the resource library where we had that set of sections all about the core capabilities, that's where we would do something like explain the different functions and what they do. All right, so I'm going to jump over to a diagram I created ahead of time. It looks pretty close to what we just created here. This is GBU. This is the fighting blue bombers of GBU. This is what our IAM system looks like there. So I've created this ahead of time. I'm really proud of it. I went through, I marked all of our different things, and I've got it ready to go. And I now want to share my diagram back with the community. So we're back over on the IAM Sketch site. We have gone to share with community, and I'm gonna go ahead and share. Yes, I do want you to publish my name. We are GBU. You may publish my institution. And I am G. Bailey at internet2.edu. GBU's cool, awesome. IAM Stack 2025. All right, yeah, really, really happy with what I've got going here. This is the GBU IAM system as it exists in summer 2025. We leverage multiple components of the InCommon Trusted Access Platform, as well as some commercial offerings. I think that's good enough for now. I may need to expand that out later, but for now we'll leave it like that. And now I need to upload my diagram. So we'll go here. Oh, I didn't save my diagram. I probably should have done that. So let's save this down to GBU. And there we go. I'll upload my diagram here. It is uploaded. Additional comments. Hello, me. because I will end up peer reviewing this. All right, so I've just submitted. That's how easy it is to share a diagram back with the community. At this point, all of that information has gone into our backend system where we can review what has been submitted uh, and then either reach back out if we need some more details or publish it as it exists. And that's it. That is now we're done with the demo. Um, so I think we've reached into Q&A at this
All
point.
right, Grady, we've got a few questions lined up in here. A couple of them around the output. So after you create a sketch, what can you do with the output? And the questions are from Laura and Kellen. Can you put it in a website? Can you put it in a wiki? Can you dump it into Lucid? You know, what is the file format that comes out of it, and what can you do with it?
Yeah. So again, this is native. I mean, this is Draw.io. Draw.io is able to output in a number of different formats. By default, it has its own XML-based format. That's the .draw.io file format, which is what I uploaded. That's the default format. Again, it's XML based, so all of the details are able to exist in text there, which is really nice. If you wanted to say, put this into a version management system or something like that, if you want to keep it in a GitHub repo, that really clean and easy to do that. But you can also export it as a variety of image formats, PNGs, JPEGs, vector graphics. You can export them as anything. There are options when you export these things. You can either export just that single page, the main diagram page, or you can export it with all of the detail pages as well. Then it just becomes a really long graphic. But there are a lot of different ways. Again, we're not trying to get in the way of what you can do with this. Anything that you can do with Draw.io is something you can do with the IAM Sketch tool.
Very good. A couple more questions. So since you were just talking about the details pages, Eric Coleman has a question about can we freeform in there? Can we add some new emerging things that we maybe haven't thought about in the sketch team yet?
So I don't believe, because though the objects that are brought in, I don't believe that it's easy to edit them. Actually, sorry, I'm playing with it. I'm playing with it right now. It is possible to add in another function into the detail page. That is something that you can do, but I would strongly suggest if you find yourself wanting to modify the detail page with a new function, tell us, because what we can do is we can go in and we can add that um, to the shape that gets used for everyone. So that way, again, if we overlooked something, if we missed something, we want to know about it so that we can put it back in there for everyone to benefit from. So if you find yourself regularly like, oh, I should add this. I need to, this isn't listed there. Tell us, and we'll get it in there for sure. But
I think
I just poked at it. It is possible to go in and add your own if you really want to.
Yep, just to underscore what Grady said, most of what we do is community based, so it's for you, by you. So the more feedback we get, the more opportunities we get to interact and can make the tool even more robust than it already is. It's a great thing for the team and for the community at large. All right, there's another question. So this is about educational opportunities coming from the diagrams that we make. So Kellen's asking, will it link to any of our explanatory documentation, any guides, in addition to what was already there, but like learning opportunities that you might be able to teach a new person on a team,
So Kellen,
basically the functions of your unit.
Kellen, I think you're probably referring to the little tooltips that I showed. And will will the tooltips, possibly link to the to some of that documentation. I think if that's I'm going to take that back. If that's feedback that we continue to get, that should be a modification we can make. Right now, explanatory documentation in the content library doesn't exist, so we couldn't link to anything if we wanted to. But I think once that content exists, if that is something that would be beneficial, that would be really easy to add.
All right, a few more things coming in. So in the Q&A, Chris Bongartz is asking, is there an ability to publish a public version but maintain a private version also? The public one maybe having slightly less granular detail?
Sure, absolutely. If you want to, there's nothing stopping you. Like we are not requiring, if you come and use the tool, you don't have to publish it. You don't have to. You can save the diagram and keep it, and you can, be like Gollum in Lord of the Rings and just have your precious, and never share it with anyone. Or you can have one that you upload and then you go back in and continue working on it and tinkering with it and add that additional layer of detail and not share that one. Everything that you do in the tool. So again, if you've used Draw.io, everything is happening in a browser. It doesn't save anywhere until you click save. And even then, you are saving to locations that you have determined, your local machine and things like that. The only time anything comes to us is if you go to that form and you go and publish it. So yeah, you're absolutely able to keep your own version and keep it to yourself, with extra details, as that are just for you.
Okay, so questions keep coming in. This is great. I'm not even going to try to paraphrase. I'm just going to read this one from Kevin Carpenter. We've started using the IAM conceptual model to talk about our roadmaps and group things together. I find we are lumping many things into more than one competency, especially things that relate to the quote IAM program, unquote, i.e. standards or customer outreach, et cetera. Any thoughts on how we can improve the use of the conceptual model?
Well, just allow everything to be IAM. Everything is identity, and become kings of the entire castle. Uh, no, the that I mean that is a that's a point I think where the other asset that we've been sharing and it was kind of created as part of the IAM Sketch project is the business context diagram. I don't have a link to that handy right now, but that's something that we can share out, and something that will be in the IAM Sketch resource library. That is a it's a different way of explaining how IAM fits in at an institution, and it shows that it helps to illustrate that there's a bit more of a participatory and almost symbiotic relationship between identity as well as the rest of campus. It shows, how a security team provides information to the IAM team, or how the provost and the president provide information, how different groups around campus provide information to IAM, and how everyone then benefits from what comes out of IAM. So I think there's a different explainer when it comes to the business context. The business diagram shows that slightly higher level, whereas the conceptual model gets into the conceptual model is really looking all at IAM. And so I think if you're using that, everything is identity because the conceptual model is focused on identity. Whereas the business diagram, the business context diagram shows the broader scope of things. That might help.
Very nice. Okay, a couple more. David Bantz has a question, and I know we've talked about this on the team, but the representation of process and data flows.
Yeah, so I didn't show anything related to process and data flow because, again, going back to very, very personal for me, in my experience, I found that creating diagrams that include the process and data flow, they approach unreadable for people who are not technical. And you can absolutely in the tool, you can do everything that you would normally do in Draw.io. You can add those details, add that extra layer of details of process and data flow. But I would recommend to do that after, kind of what Chris Bongartz was saying earlier, having another version of your diagram. Add that level of detail after you've created your initial diagram that you would share with non-technical stakeholders and leadership. Add the data flow and things like that as an additional level of detail for implementation. So you can add all of that in there. We didn't build for that specifically, but we also aren't preventing you from doing it. So it's pretty straightforward to add connections and things between objects in Draw.io, and represent a data flow. We kept the Draw.io has a layering function. If you're familiar with image editing tools like Photoshop and things, you have the concept of layers where you can build a whole new layer of things on top of one. So what I would suggest doing is building all those connections in a separate layer that you can turn on and off. So you have your layer of your data flow, your interconnectivity, and you can turn it on and off as you need to, moving forward.
All right, and one last question from Wendell North, and it's around what did that final artifact look like? So that final output piece, when you hit save and you open it back up, what does that look like?
Oh, well, let me, I will go ahead and I will share in the Zoom chat here. I'll share the diagram uh, as it was output. So let's see, let's share. Let's see if I change it to everyone. Can I actually share that? Or will I have to actually share? I just want to drag this image in and drop it in there. It's not going to let me do it, is it? It does not. It does not want to do that. So I will just pull up do a quick share right here. So this is that PNG that I said I exported this, my GBU diagram just as a PNG, and this is I chose to just export the single page, and this is what came out. It's very clean. It's very simple. This is all that it is. Uh, I don't have an export right now of the long version, the one where I export all the pages. But that is another option. So again, it exports exactly like what you saw in the bit of the demo. It's just an easy image that can be shared around, attached to anything. Yeah.
All right, thumbs up. That is the end of the questions that I see. This has been a very restrained group, and nobody has said when. I keep waiting for somebody to say when, what's next?
Oh, oh, well, thank you for prompting me, Rami, because
And
I
since I am
forgot.
unfortunately the project manager in the room, that's like my vernacular is when.
Oh, well, I should have gone right back to this. So, what is next for IAM Sketch? So where we're going next, again, everything is pre-alpha. We are going to be doing some closed alpha testing. That is the very next step. And then some closed beta testing. So again, we don't want to release this for general availability until we feel confident and comfortable with it. So we're going to do closed alpha, closed beta. We're going to get feedback and make improvements. Then we're going to make it generally available. And after that, we expect to have some sort of, probably as part of ACamp, some sort of feedback or listening session at TechX later this year. And again, that will help inform what comes next after general availability. But I could see there being some additional templates added. We talked about that business diagram. Right now, that's just a static graphic. We could perhaps, if there is a desire and if there's a real use case for it, we could perhaps add a template that looks like that business diagram to the sketch tool here. Well, there may be other uses for some sort of asset that the community in general wants to create very easily. Again, this was the big, I won't call it low-hanging fruit because it wasn't, but this was the big one. I'm sure there are other use cases out there, and so we hope to build on those things. We already did Q&A, and this is where that was supposed to come before. Rami just, yeah.
They were so excited to ask questions. And
I know.
we have lots of thoughts for this, Grady and team and the Academy team. Also, we're thinking about ways to incorporate this into training and different programs that come out of the InCommon Academy. So I think you'll be seeing Sketch in a lot of places as we move forward. And huge thanks from me personally to the team here, the community especially, for what you've already given and what you're about to give in the alpha and beta phases that Grady's going to talk about for a minute, or in just a minute. So thanks to everybody. And Jean, I'll hand it back to you.
I'm getting there. All right. Well, this has been really great, everyone. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen as we come to a close for today's session. So, gosh, Rami, Grady, thank you so much. We've seen all these teasers and trailers for this tool, and I think it's really fun to see it finally coming to life and, bringing it into action. And I'm sure everybody on this webinar is chomping at the bit to try it out. So, Grady, thanks for kind of keying in the fact that the community will have a chance to do so. So really important, everybody. So as you leave today, after you close your session, you're going to get a pop-up survey that's going to ask you about today's session. Well, we've included a link in that, or a question within that survey that gives you a chance to raise your hand and let us know if you want to be one of those alpha or beta testers. So if you do, please fill out that survey. It gives us a chance for you to, input your name and email address, and then we'll have a chance to maybe reach back out to you, because your thoughts and your input are going to help make this tool even more useful for all of you, and also a way to just build the library for the larger community. So stay tuned for that. Give us feedback on IAM Online if you have it. If you have ideas for future topics, click on that link and you'll be able to help us understand what you want to talk about, or maybe you want to be a presenter. Anywho, as we do every year, we take a little summer break in August, so there will be no IAM Online next month in August. But check back in September 24th. It's a little bit later than normal. So September 24th will be our next IAM Online. And we're going to be focusing on a topic where with community recommendations for supporting and signaling identity assurance across InCommon Federation. There's a lot of stuff happening in that realm. So we hope you will tune in. And before I say we're done, is there anything in chat that we need to talk about? No, we just have a few more comments coming from the community about what's next. So you can all tune into the chat for now. But anywho, that brings us to a close today. So many thanks to all of you for tuning in and for your questions, and many thanks on our side for the team who puts on these webinars.